A deep and powerful revelation. The world is changing at a frightening speed. Natural disasters, global pandemics, social unrest and economic collapse are happening all around us. People are searching for answers, desperate to understand why everything seems to be spiraling out of control. But what if the answers were always there? What if the Bible had already revealed what is happening? The book of Revelation speaks of 7 seals, events that unfold before the final judgment. But here's the real question. Have some of these seals already been opened? And if so, what does that mean for us today? Most people ignore prophecy, either because they think it's too complicated or because they believe it doesn't apply to them. But the truth is, God never intended for his warnings to be a mystery. He has always revealed his plans through prophecy, calling out to those who are willing to listen. But the question is, are you really listening? This is not just another discussion about the end times. This is a wake-up call. If you've ever wondered why so much chaos is unfolding in the world, if you've ever felt a deep sense that we are approaching something monumental, then this message is for you. By the time you finish reading this, you will not only understand what is happening, you will know what you must do to be prepared. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. If you believe that understanding God's word is important, if you are someone who values truth over comfort, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel right now. That way, you won't miss any of these critical revelations. The day of death is better than the day of birth. Before we continue, I want you to do something powerful. Take a moment and declare your faith in the comments. Type these words: God is my refuge, in whom I trust. Why? Because there is power in speaking faith, and I will personally heart each comment as a sign that we are standing together in truth. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't seem to make sense at first glance. Ecclesiastes 7:1 says, "The day of death is better than the day of birth." But how can this be? We celebrate the birth of a child, yet here we are told that death holds greater value. This statement is not just poetry, it carries a hidden truth, one that connects directly to the reality of the seals in Revelation. Life, as the world sees it, is measured by wealth, status, and success. People chase money, luxury, and riches, believing that these things will bring happiness. But the day of birth represents the beginning of this pursuit, a life of distractions, temporary pleasures, and chasing things that will one day be meaningless. Death, however, marks the conclusion of that journey. It is the moment when every deception is stripped away, when only the truth remains. That is why a funeral holds more wisdom than a celebration. In joy, people forget their mortality. In sorrow, they remember what truly matters. The same thing is happening in the world today. God is allowing events to unfold that force people to reflect, to recognize that everything they thought mattered. Their money, status, and riches will not save them. The opening of the seals is a sign that this world is approaching its end. And here is where it becomes even more serious. Many people claim to follow God, but in reality, they are consumed by the love of luxury and wealth. The Bible warns about this repeatedly. Jesus said in Luke 12:15, "Take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Yet, look around. How many are obsessed with material success, ignoring the clear signs that everything is being shaken? When the first seals are broken, something terrifying is revealed. Those who have placed their trust in the things of this world will see it all crumble before their eyes. Wealth will not protect them. Status will not shield them. Only those who have built their foundation on God's truth will stand. It is no coincidence that some of the most powerful people in the world, those who control economies, influence politics, and live in unimaginable luxury, are the very ones who seem to be working against biblical truth. They create a world where people are addicted to temporary pleasures, blind to the reality unfolding before them. But no one can escape the judgment of God. When the seals are broken, the illusion of security shatters. Those who have built their lives on power, money, and worldly success will realize too late that they have been deceived. But you still have time. You still have a choice. Are you ready to open your eyes? Are you ready to prepare for what's coming? Because God is calling you now. Don't ignore the signs. Don't wait until it's too late. This is your wake-up call. The Bible calls us to seek wisdom in the house of mourning, not in the house of feasting. Those who pause to reflect, who truly examine their lives, will see what is coming. They will prepare, but those who continue to chase after pleasure and wealth will be caught off guard. And when that happens, it will be too late. The world is being forced into a moment of reckoning. The very fabric of society is being tested. Nations are on the brink of collapse. We are being warned, but are we listening? Are we willing to let go of our obsession with riches, money, and luxury, and instead build our lives on something eternal? Because make no mistake, those who refuse to see the truth will be swept away in the coming storm. And here's where it gets even more serious. The Bible warns that before the final judgment, many will be deceived. They will believe they are safe because they have everything they need, but they will not realize that they are the ones in the greatest danger. The question is, which side will you be on? Will you be among those who wake up and prepare? Or will you be among those who refuse to see until it's too late? The first seals have already been broken. The signs are everywhere. But what happens next is even more shocking. What unfolds as the seals continue to open will change the course of history. And it has already begun. Are you ready to face the truth? Because the next part of this revelation is something few people are prepared for. And once you see it, you will never look at the world the same way again. The world is standing on the edge of something catastrophic. Every day, new disasters strike, earthquakes, floods, deadly diseases. Global leaders scramble for solutions, yet nothing seems to stop the spiral of destruction. People are beginning to ask, is this just a natural cycle of history? Or is something greater at play? For those who study prophecy, the answer is clear. We are witnessing the early signs of the plagues described in Revelation 16. But what most people fail to realize is that these events are not random. They are warnings, whispers of what is to come. God is speaking, but few are listening. The book of Revelation describes a time when divine judgment will pour out upon the earth. It speaks of plagues that will shake the nations, boils afflicting mankind, waters turning to blood, scorching heat, darkness, global chaos. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. Many of these warnings are already manifesting in ways the world refuses to acknowledge. Consider the outbreaks of deadly diseases. Viruses appear one after another, mutating faster than medicine can keep up. Science may try to explain it, but prophecy has already revealed it. The world is experiencing a taste of what is to come. And yet, instead of turning to God, people seek comfort in their riches, believing that their wealth will protect them. But money will not stop judgment. Luxury will not buy salvation. The book of James warns us clearly. James 5:1-3. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for your miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver are corroded, and their corrosion will be a witness against you and will eat your flesh like fire. This is not just a warning to the wealthy, but to anyone who puts their trust in material possessions rather than in God. Many are blind to what is happening because they are too comfortable. They believe that their money will keep them safe. Their luxuries will shield them. Their high status will protect them. But when the seals are broken, when the plagues begin to intensify, what good will wealth be? And this is where it becomes even more terrifying. In the days of Pharaoh, when Moses warned of the plagues that would strike Egypt, the people refused to listen. They hardened their hearts, believing their gods would protect them, their wealth would sustain them, their power would save them, but judgment came anyway. Today, history is repeating itself. The warnings are here, the signs are undeniable, but the world is still refusing to listen. Some will say these disasters have always happened. There's nothing different about today. But Jesus warned of this exact mindset. Matthew 24:37-39. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. Do not be among those who ignore the signs. The time is coming. Are you ready? Before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, right up until the day Noah entered the ark. They knew nothing about what was coming until the flood swept them all away. Do you see the pattern? People ignored the warnings then, just as they are ignoring them now. They were too distracted by pleasures, entertainment, and wealth. They were caught up in the illusion that life would continue as usual, until it didn't. And that is exactly where we are today. The world is feasting while the storm clouds gather. The book of Revelation tells us that the plagues will not only bring suffering, but will expose the hearts of men. Some will turn to God, but many will curse him. They will refuse to repent. Instead, they will blame governments, scientists, and even God himself, but they will not humble themselves. They will not recognize that the very things they trusted in, their wealth, success, and luxury, are the very things that are failing them. What we are witnessing right now is only the beginning. If the world refuses to wake up, the events that follow will be far worse. The seals are being opened. The plagues are beginning to fall. The warnings are clear, but here is the real question. What will you do with this knowledge? Some will ignore it. Some will laugh. But those who have eyes to see will recognize that God is giving them time to prepare, and those who are wise will not waste it, because the next thing that happens changes everything. The world is crying out for answers. People watch in fear as disasters strike, economies collapse, societies spiral into division. Every corner of the earth seems to be unraveling. But what if this chaos is not just a series of unfortunate events? What if this is God speaking, warning, calling? Throughout history, whenever humanity drifted too far from the truth, God allowed events to shake the world, not to destroy, but to wake people up. The Bible is filled with examples of God using crisis to turn people's hearts back to Him. But here's the problem. Most people don't recognize His voice in the storm. They look at disasters and see only randomness. They blame governments. They blame the wealthy. They blame bad luck. But they don't see the deeper reality. God is using these moments as megaphones to warn a deaf world. The Bible declares in Amos 3:7, "Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing His plan to His servants, the prophets." That means God has already revealed what is happening. He is not silent. He has given the answers, but the world refuses to listen. And why is that? Because people are consumed with money, wealth, and luxury, the very things that make them feel secure. They don't want to believe that their foundation is crumbling. Let's take a step back. Think about the major crises of the past few years. Think about global pandemics, financial collapses, natural disasters. Every time people say, "This is the worst it's ever been," but then they move on, as if things will go back to normal. They continue chasing after riches, ignoring the warning signs all around them. And yet, things don't return to normal. They get worse. Jesus warned about this in Matthew 24:7-8. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. Birth pains don't stop, they intensify. And that is exactly what we're seeing. Each disaster, each crisis is leading towards something bigger, something the world is not ready for. Many people think they can buy their way out of trouble. They believe that money will protect them, influence will secure them, luxury will save them. But that's a lie. The Bible makes it clear that when the final judgments fall, wealth will be worthless. In Ezekiel 7:19 it says, "They will throw their silver into the streets, and their gold will be treated as unclean. Their silver and gold will not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord." And this is exactly what's happening. Look at how quickly economies can collapse. One moment, the stock markets are at an all-time high. The next, everything is in ruins. What seemed untouchable can be wiped out overnight. And yet the world keeps trusting in temporary things. And here's where it gets even more serious. Every time God allows these warnings, people have a choice. Wake up or remain blind. Prepare or be caught off guard. Turn to God or cling to the failing systems of this world. What will you choose? The signs are clear, the warnings are loud. God is calling you now. Will you listen? God is giving people a chance to wake up. He is calling them to turn away from their false security and back to Him. But what happens instead? Instead of repenting, people harden their hearts. They cling to their wealth, hoping it will save them. They blame God for their suffering rather than realizing that He has been warning them all along. Revelation 16:9 describes what happens during the plagues. They were seared by the intense heat, and they cursed the name of God, who had control over these plagues, but they refused to repent and glorify Him. This is exactly what we are seeing today. People watch the world falling apart, yet they refuse to turn to God. Instead, they seek more entertainment, more distractions, more ways to avoid facing the truth. And here is where the deception becomes even stronger. The enemy of souls knows that if people truly understood what was happening, they would repent. So instead, he keeps them distracted. He makes sure they are too busy chasing success, wealth, and luxury to recognize the warnings. Think about it. How many people spend hours scrolling through meaningless content? How many drown themselves in distractions, watching news that only stirs up fear, yet never take time to seek God? This is exactly how the enemy wants it, a world too busy to realize that time is running out. But here's the real question. Will you fall into that same trap? Will you ignore the signs, assuming things will return to normal? Or will you open your eyes and see what is really happening, because what's coming next will shake the world even more? The signs are accelerating. The birth pains are increasing. The world will not be the same when the next seal is opened. The greatest deception of our time is not war, disease, or economic collapse. It is distraction. While the world crumbles, people remain unaware, caught up in entertainment, luxury, and the endless pursuit of wealth. They are drowning in distractions while the final events of prophecy unfold before their very eyes. Satan's greatest weapon is not to convince people that God does not exist. It is to keep them so busy, so preoccupied that they never stop to seek the truth. If he can flood their minds with money, success, pleasure, indulgence, they will never notice that their very souls are in danger. And it's working. Most people don't reject God outright. Instead, they never make time for Him. Their days are filled with screens. They are consumed by entertainment, social media, and endless news cycles. They work endlessly to build wealth and luxury, believing these things will bring security. They chase the next promotion, the next big investment, the next opportunity for personal gain, all while ignoring the fact that the world is on the brink of judgment. This is why Jesus warned in Luke 21:34, "Be careful, or your hearts will be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and the anxieties of life, and that day will close on you suddenly like a trap." And that is exactly what's happening now. The world is walking straight into a trap. Think about it. Just a few decades ago, people had fewer distractions. They had time to reflect. They had time to think deeply. They had time to seek the truth. But today, people fill every spare moment with noise, scrolling, watching, consuming. They don't even realize they are being spiritually suffocated. And it's no accident. The systems of the world are designed to keep people occupied with everything except what truly matters. Governments push endless cycles of fear and crisis. Media outlets flood people's minds with distractions. Social media keeps them addicted to entertainment, wealth, and self-obsession. But here's the terrifying reality. Most people don't even see it happening. They believe they are making their own choices. But in reality, they are being led away from truth, led away from seeking God, led away from the warnings unfolding all around them. This is why the Bible warns us in 1 Peter 5:8, "Be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary the devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." A roaring lion doesn't need to devour someone who is already too distracted to see the attack coming. And this is exactly how Satan operates. He doesn't need to convince you that God isn't real. He just needs to keep you too busy to care. But will you let him? Will you continue drowning in distractions? Or will you wake up and recognize the truth? Because time is running out, and the choice is yours. The pursuit of wealth, money, and luxury is not inherently evil. However, when these things become an idol, when they replace time spent with God, they become a weapon against the soul. The Bible warns us in Matthew 6:24, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." This is not just a warning, it is a prophecy. People today are slaves to their own desires, ambitions, and distractions. They may not realize it, but they have already chosen what they serve. And here's where it becomes even more dangerous. The final events of prophecy are not waiting for people to be ready. They are unfolding right now. The distractions of this world will not stop the reality of what's coming. And when the next seals are opened, many will be caught completely off guard. They will look up from their screens, their wealth, their distractions, and realize too late that they were focusing on all the wrong things. And that moment is coming faster than anyone expects. For centuries, the world has placed its trust in science, believing that human knowledge and technological advancements could solve any crisis. But something is happening now. Even scientists are beginning to realize that the world is headed toward an unavoidable collapse. The warnings were always there, spoken through prophecy long before modern science even acknowledged them. But just like in the days of Noah, people have refused to listen. The book of Revelation foretells a time when the earth itself would begin to groan under the weight of sin. Jesus warned in Matthew 24:7, "There will be famines, earthquakes, and pestilences in various places before the final judgment." Yet the world still believes these events are simply natural cycles, failing to see the prophetic fulfillment unfolding before their very eyes. And here's where it gets even more shocking. Long before environmental scientists began warning about the destruction of the planet, God's word already revealed that the earth would deteriorate due to human greed, corruption, and sin. Isaiah 24:5-6 says, "The earth is defiled by its people. They have disobeyed the laws, violated the statutes, and broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore, a curse consumes the earth. Its people must bear their guilt. Therefore, earth's inhabitants are burned up, and very few are left." The truth is undeniable. The more people chase after wealth, power, and luxury, the more destruction they leave behind. They strip the world of its resources. They destroy its balance. They accelerate their own downfall, all in the name of progress. Yet people still believe that money and riches will protect them. They believe that as long as they can accumulate enough wealth, they will be insulated from the chaos around them. But what happens when money itself becomes worthless? We've already seen glimpses of it. Economic collapses, inflation, stock market crashes, entire nations brought to their knees overnight, banks failing, currencies devaluing, powerful men losing everything in an instant, and yet people still trust in money more than in God. But the Bible is clear. There will come a time when even the wealthiest will realize that their riches cannot save them. Revelation 18:17 describes the downfall of the world's economy. In 1 hour, such great wealth has been brought to ruin. Imagine that. In a single moment, everything people worked for will vanish. The entire system that so many place their faith in will collapse, and the world will be thrown into chaos. The warnings have been given, but the world continues to ignore them, believing that somehow science or technology will save them. They refuse to see that the very things they trust in are leading them to destruction. And this is where it becomes even more terrifying. Many believe that the events of Revelation are far in the future, that they still have time to prepare. But the reality is this: the process has already begun. The world is moving toward a tipping point faster than anyone realizes. Those who are spiritually blind will be caught off guard. But those who are awake, those who understand the truth, will not be deceived, because what comes next will divide the world. Those who trust in God, and those who cling to a system that is about to collapse. The choice is yours. Will you see the truth before it's too late? The world is being divided into two groups: those who trust in God and those who trust in the failing systems of man. And when the next phase of prophecy unfolds, the consequences will be irreversible. When the final crisis comes, who will stand? A moment is coming when everything will be tested, every belief, every foundation, every person. When that time arrives, who will remain standing? The Bible warns us that in the final days, many will fall away. People who once claimed to believe in God will abandon their faith, not because they stopped believing, but because they were never truly grounded in the first place. Jesus himself foretold this in Matthew 24:10. At that time, many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other. This is where the great separation begins. The world is moving toward a crisis unlike anything ever seen before. And when the pressure increases, people will be forced to choose. It won't just be a test of faith, it will be a test of allegiance. Right now, it's easy for people to say they follow God. It's easy to claim faith when life is comfortable. But what happens when that faith costs something? History has already shown us how quickly people abandon their convictions when the cost becomes too high. Look at the persecuted churches throughout history. Look at the Holocaust. Look at moments when governments turned against their own citizens. When survival is on the line, people reveal who they truly are. And it will happen again. Revelation 13 warns of a time when the entire world will be pressured to conform. A system will rise that demands loyalty not to God, but to an earthly power. Those who refuse to comply will be labeled dangerous, rebellious, a threat to society, and many will give in. They will justify it. God will understand. I have to protect my family. But deep down, they will know the truth. They traded their faith for safety. This is why the Bible tells us in Luke 9:24, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it." In that moment, money will be worthless. Luxury will be meaningless. Power will belong to those who control the system. But there will be those who refuse to bow, those who stand firm no matter the cost. They are the ones who never put their trust in riches. They are the ones who understood that true security is not found in wealth but in obedience to God, and they will be hated for it. John 15:18-19 reminds us, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you." The final crisis will not be about who is rich or poor, who is powerful or weak. It will be about who is truly standing on God's side. And here's where it becomes even more serious. Many people think they are ready. They believe they will stand strong when the time comes, but they have never been tested. They have never had to choose between God and comfort, truth and survival. And when that moment comes, many will realize too late that they were never as prepared as they thought, because the final separation is coming, and when it does, there will be no more room for compromise. Now, more than ever, people need to decide, what side will you be on? If you know someone who needs to hear this message, share it now. Time is running out, and the world needs to wake up. The moment of truth is approaching. Every person, every nation, every soul will be tested. The decisions people make in the coming days will determine their eternal destiny. For centuries, God has given warnings, calling people to wake up. Some have listened, most have ignored. But now we are reaching the final moments, before the world is divided not by wealth, not by status, but by allegiance. Jesus told a parable in Matthew 13:24-30 about the wheat and the tares. In the beginning, they grow together. They look the same from the outside. You can't always tell the difference, but when the harvest comes, everything is revealed. This is exactly what is happening now. For years, churches have been filled with people who claim to follow God. But not everyone is truly His. Many have built their faith on comfort, on a life without sacrifice. And when the moment of testing comes, they will fall away. Because in the end, the world will be divided into two groups: those who stand with God, and those who follow the failing system of man. And when that final moment arrives, where will you stand? On the surface, many appear faithful. They go through the motions of religion, maintaining a routine based on appearances. But when the storm comes, only the genuine will remain. The Bible warns that a time will come when even those who once claimed faith will turn away. They will compromise to fit in. They will deny truth to avoid trouble. And when that happens, the separation will be complete. Revelation 14:12 describes those who will stand firm. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. These are the ones who will not be deceived by money, riches, luxury. They understand that all of these things will one day fade. They know that true security is never found in earthly wealth, but in eternal truth, and when the final test comes, they will not bow. But here is the most terrifying part. Many will realize too late that they were on the wrong side. Jesus warns in Matthew 7:22-23, "Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?' Then I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers.'" Think about that. Many will think they were safe, only to find out they were lost. This is why there is no more time to be lukewarm. The world is reaching the final choice. The separation is happening now. And when the moment of judgment comes, there will be no second chances. The only question left is, will you be counted among the wheat, or will you be swept away with the tares? Now that you've seen the truth, what will you do with it? The world is changing faster than ever. The seals are opening. The warnings are clear. God is calling, but are you listening? For too long, people have trusted in things that will not save them. Money, power, luxury, status. All of it will pass away, but truth remains. Right now, you have a choice. 1. You can ignore the signs, continue living as if nothing is happening, and hope that you will be safe. Secondly, you can wake up, take action, and prepare for what is coming. Because make no mistake, things will not go back to normal. Jesus warned us that many will be deceived. Many will trust in the wrong things. Many will believe the wrong voices. Many will follow the wrong path. And when the final test comes, they will not stand. But you don't have to be one of them. God is giving you a chance right now to make a decision. Will you be among those who remain faithful, who see beyond the illusions of this world? Or will you be caught off guard, realizing too late that you were focused on all the wrong things? Ask yourself, am I truly prepared for what's coming? Have I built my life on things that will last, or things that will fade? Am I willing to follow truth, even when it costs me everything? Because the time for half-hearted faith is over. Now is the time to commit completely to God, to let go of distractions and prepare for the final events unfolding before our eyes. While the world falls apart, those who trust in God will stand firm. And here's what you need to do next. 1. If you are serious about growing in truth, subscribe to this channel now and turn on notifications. Oh, the revelations in this video are only the beginning. 2. If this message impacted you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Oh, don't keep this truth to yourself. Oh, someone else's eternity could depend on it. 3. Watch the video on your screen right now. Oh, it will take you even deeper into the reality of what is coming and what you must do to be prepared. The choice is yours. But remember, the time to choose is running out.